Okay, let's unpack this because right now, millions of people are spending an average of 16 hours just planning a vacation.
Yeah, 16 hours. It's wild.
It's basically 2 full working days of unpaid, highly stressful labor. And you've got, what, 20 browser tabs open, just trying to figure out where to eat on your next trip?
Right, and it's so frustrating because we have more travel tech at our fingertips than, at any point in human history.
Exactly. But somehow, the actual act of planning a trip has devolved into this complete logistical nightmare.
It really has.
So today, we're opening up the blueprint of a company that is trying to just burn that entire fragmented system to the ground and replace it with something radically different.
Which is a massive undertaking. I mean, when you look at the global leisure travel market, it's a $5.5 trillion industry.
Trillion, with a
But
T.
with the T, yeah. And yet the fundamental architecture supporting all that capital is just deeply flawed.
It's failing everyone, right?
Totally. It's failing the modern traveler who is completely overwhelmed. It's failing local businesses being squeezed out by algorithms, and it's failing the creators who are driving the trends.
So welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into today's mission because the source material we have is uniquely comprehensive.
Yeah, we aren't just looking at some, glossy consumer website or a PR release.
No, we are reverse engineering an actual investor-ready pitch deck and the comprehensive business plans of a travel tech startup called My3P. Exactly. And we're cross-referencing their whole strategy with this massive macro-level data from the 2024 Travel Trends Report by Symmetrical.
And what's fascinating here is that the lens we need to view this through isn't just, here's a new app to download.
Right.
My3P is attempting to build a complete operating system for a new, sustainable travel economy.
Which is huge. And we're going to see how they're leveraging European digital policy, funding, and research to solve this massive crisis of cultural heritage.
Yeah, because it is a crisis.
It really is. I mean, think about it. If you've ever found yourself, cross-referencing a blurry 10-second social media video with Google Maps at 2 in the morning.
Oh, I've been there.
Right. Just to see if some hidden cafe actually exists near your hotel. You know exactly what this planning fatigue feels like.
It's exhausting.
So before we get into how My3P plans to solve this, we really need to diagnose the disease. Let's look at the traveler's burden.
Yeah, that symmetrical data mapping out the 16-hour planning cycle is just staggering.
How did we get here? How did finding a weekend getaway turn into, requiring the operational mindset of an air traffic controller?
Well, the root cause is this fundamental shift in consumer behavior that the legacy travel industry just hasn't adapted to.
Okay, what kind of shift?
So historically, travel planning was based on utility. You had a destination in mind, right? You walked into a travel agency or you went to Expedia and typed flights to Rome.
Right, it was transactional. You knew the what and the where, and you just needed someone to execute the how.
Precisely. But the modern traveler, especially millennials and Gen Z, they don't operate that way anymore.
I really don't.
The sources highlight that planning has moved from utility-driven to inspiration-driven. And that inspiration is entirely fueled by the creator economy.
Which is a $250 billion market in its own right, by the way.
Exactly. You don't just decide to go to Rome out of nowhere. You're sitting on your couch on a Tuesday, scrolling through your feed, and you see this beautifully shot video.
Someone eating incredible pasta in this tiny ivy-covered courtyard.
Right. And the inspiration is instant. You want to literally be the person in that specific courtyard.
But the bridge between my couch and that courtyard doesn't exist.
It's a massive chasm. The business plan actually calls this the trust and transaction gap.
The trust and transaction gap. I like that.
Yeah, because you see the video, but you have no direct, trustworthy way to book that exact lived experience.
Right. The creator might tag the city. If you're lucky, they tag the restaurant.
But they definitely aren't giving you a cohesive, bookable itinerary. So you get thrust right back into those 16 hours of project management.
Opening dozens of tabs, trying to reverse engineer someone else's vacation.
Exactly.
And while we're acting as our own unpaid travel agents, there's this severe macroeconomic pressure cooker happening in the background.
Oh, the cost of living crisis.
Yes. The symmetrical report gives us this really complex look at it. It's a paradox, really.
How so?
Well, people's wallets are being squeezed at the grocery store, at the gas pump, but travel budgets, they seem to be totally ring-fenced.
It's true. The data points to this really resilient, stubborn commitment to the experience economy.
Like, the report notes that 33.5% of British travelers actually plan to increase their holiday spending in 2024,
And across Europe, it's 54% who expect to spend more on travel this year than last.
which flies in the face of logic, right? When disposable income is shrinking globally, why prioritize a flight over immediate material comfort?
Because travel is increasingly viewed not as a luxury, but as this essential component of well-being and, personal identity.
That makes sense. But it comes with conditions, right?
Heavy conditions. That same report shows 87% of these consumers are actively deploying aggressive cost-cutting measures elsewhere in their trip.
Ah, okay. So they'll trade down on accommodations, maybe book a cheaper short-term rental instead of a boutique hotel.
Right, or they slash their daily on-site spending.
So you've got this highly motivated group of travelers who will fight to get on the plane, but they are incredibly price sensitive once they land.
Exactly. And that explains why the report emphasizes that travel brands have to offer dynamic pricing or flexible payments just to survive.
Because if you're a standard hotel offering a rigid, expensive package, you're just invisible to the modern traveler.
Completely invisible. And that economic pressure feeds directly into the larger existential crisis facing Europe right now.
The over-tourism issue.
Yes. When people want authentic experiences but are heavily constrained by budget and they're being guided by algorithmic social media feeds, you get a massive funneling effect.
Right, the clash between over-tourism and cultural heritage. The search volume data in the sources paints a really alarming picture of this.
It really does.
We're seeing 81,000 monthly searches for flights to Amsterdam, 47,000 for Paris, 50,000 for Tenerife.
Everyone is being driven by the exact same algorithms into the exact same square mileage of Europe.
It's wild. Think about the underlying mechanics of the legacy online travel agencies, the big OTAs.
Right. Their entire business model is predicated on volume and conversion rates.
Exactly. Their algorithms are designed to give the traveler the path of least resistance.
Because it's infinitely easier for an algorithm to sell a standardized hotel room in central Paris than to surface a unique, independent guest house in some regional village.
Especially one that lacks a sophisticated digital marketing team.
Exactly. So the tech we currently use to book travel actively accelerates the destruction of the places we want to visit.
Because the infrastructure of cities like Amsterdam or Annis just cannot sustain that concentrated volume.
Right, rents skyrocket for locals. Authentic cultural businesses get replaced by identical souvenir shops.
The actual heritage of the destination just gets hollowed out.
While simultaneously, literally an hour away by train, you have these incredible secondary cities.
Regional cultural heritage sites.
Yeah, and family-run businesses that are practically starving for visitors.
Because they offer the exact authentic, lower-cost experience the modern traveler is desperately searching for, but they're entirely locked out of the digital ecosystem.
They don't have the capital to bid on Google Ads against multinational hotel chains.
So the survival of European cultural heritage doesn't require us to stop traveling.
No, not at all.
It requires a massive infrastructure shift to disperse those tourism flows safely and sustainably out of the capitals and into the regions.
And that is the precise structural failure that My3P is attempting to solve.
Because the traditional agency is dead, the massive OTAs are funneling everyone into congestion, and the social media scroll leaves the traveler overwhelmed.
It's a perfect storm.
So let's transition into how My3P actually steps into this void. Because it's easy to point out the system is broken, but architecting a solution is a whole different ballgame.
Right. And the business plan introduces a model they call a creator-led online travel agency, or a COTA.
COTA, okay.
Mhm.
And this is a three-sided marketplace connecting travelers, creators, and local businesses.
Yes. And the most useful analogy they provide in the deck is comparing My3P to a Shopify for travel.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's build out that mental model. Before Shopify existed, if a small artisan wanted to sell handmade goods online, the barrier to entry was catastrophic.
Oh, yeah. You had to hire a web developer, figure out secure payment gateways.
Manage back-end databases, deal with hosting, it was a nightmare. Then Shopify arrived and offered a business in a box. You supply the product, they supply the infrastructure.
And My3P is proposing that exact infrastructural shift for travel creators. They are allowing creators to productize their knowledge.
Let's examine how My3P solves the specific job to be done for each of the three participants in this marketplace, starting with the traveler.
Okay, so for the traveler, the job to be done is to entirely eliminate that 16-hour planning nightmare while guaranteeing a high-quality, authentic experience.
Right, they want to close those 20 tabs and just hit a button that says, make it happen.
Exactly. And My3P's solution for the traveler relies heavily on an AI travel navigator, but we need to be very clear about how this AI functions.
Yeah, because it's not just a generic conversational chatbot spitting out popular links.
No, not at all. Travelers can discover and purchase human-curated day-by-day itineraries that are structured as functional software.
Right. The business plan uses this great example of a safe solo Paris guide authored by a local female creator. Let's walk through what actually happens when a traveler buys that.
When you purchase that guide, you aren't getting a static PDF document. You are getting a dynamic, structured timeline integrated directly into an interface that handles the transactions.
So the hotel booking, the train tickets, the restaurant reservations, they are all natively bookable right within the flow of the creator's itinerary.
Exactly. And furthermore, the platform integrates safety scores and tested by verification badges.
Oh, wow. The psychological relief there is immense.
Right.
As a traveler, I'm no longer paralyzed by the anxiety of wondering if a neighborhood is safe after dark, or if that highly rated restaurant on TripAdvisor is actually a tourist trap.
Because you are purchasing the lived, verified expertise of a specific human being whose aesthetic you already trust.
It's buying confidence.
Exactly. Now, let's pivot to the second side of the marketplace, the creators. Their job to be done is to achieve reliable monetization and operational efficiency.
And the sources highlight a massive pain point in the current creator economy, which they label the DM problem.
The DM problem, yeah.
I can imagine. A creator posts a stunning video of a hidden cove in Greece. It hits the algorithm lottery, gets 3 million views.
And suddenly their direct messages are just flooded with 10,000 people asking, "Where is this? How do I get there? Where did you stay?"
And under the current paradigm, the creator has two terrible options. They can either ignore their audience, which damages their brand, or they spend hours answering those messages for free.
Right. Currently, creators rely on brand sponsorships to survive, which are highly volatile.
And often force them to act as human billboards for products they don't even organically use.
Exactly. Their actual value, their deep, on-the-ground logistical knowledge of a destination remains trapped in their head as what the documents call dead data.
Dead data. So the My3P Creator Studio is the mechanism to extract and monetize that dead data.
Yes. It allows the creator to transform their lived experience into a structured, sellable digital asset.
So they build interactive maps, detailed logistical guides, or even offer personalized one-on-one consulting calls, all managed through the platform.
And they get access to immediate payouts and back-end business analytics. The platform effectively promotes them from mere social media influencers to micro-entrepreneurs.
They become the next generation of decentralized travel agents.
Exactly, which brings us to the third side of the marketplace. And this is where the macroeconomic impact for Europe really crystallizes. The local businesses or the SMEs.
Right. We're talking about the independent cafes, the family-run vineyards, local historical tour guides.
Their primary job to be done is customer acquisition, and right now they are losing the war.
They're practically invisible. If you're an independent boutique hotel in rural Portugal, you just cannot compete in the digital marketplace.
You can't. The major OTAs will charge you exorbitant commission rates just to list you.
And you certainly can't afford to outbid global hospitality conglomerates for keyword searches on Google.
Right, and relying on foot traffic or hoping a popular creator happens to walk through your door by chance, that's not a viable business strategy.
So how does a creator's itinerary actually solve the customer acquisition problem for that tiny Portuguese hotel? The business plan mentions a business hub.
Yeah, the business hub.
I'm trying to visualize the exact mechanism here. How does that local SME get integrated into the platform without needing, like, a dedicated IT department?
It happens organically through the creator's curation process.
Okay.
When a creator uses the My3P Studio to build a weekend itinerary for that specific region in Portugal, they digitally map and tag the independent hotel they start at.
Oh, I see.
The My3P platform then surfaces that SME precisely when a traveler is interacting with that specific itinerary.
So it's hyper-local, high-intent marketing.
Yeah.
The business isn't paying for a generic banner ad that a million people will just scroll past.
Exactly. They are being directly recommended by a trusted creator to a traveler who is actively looking to pull out their credit card and book a trip to that exact 5-mile radius.
That's brilliant. The creator effectively acts as the digital onboarding agent for the local SME.
It is measurable, performance-based marketing that entirely bypasses the traditional algorithmic gatekeepers.
And if we zoom out, this mechanism seems to directly answer the cultural heritage dilemma we established in the beginning.
Right. By empowering creators whose entire value proposition is finding unique, off-the-beaten-path experiences, you're inherently building a system that disperses tourism away from the overwhelmed capitals.
Because an algorithm optimizes for the easiest mass conversion, which means sending another 1,000 people to the Eiffel Tower.
But a creator optimizes for uniqueness and personal connection, which means sending a dozen highly respectful travelers to a masterclass with a local artisan in a secondary city.
The platform explicitly promotes slower, immersive travel models like digital nomad residencies or deep cultural explorations over high-carbon, rapid-fire weekend breaks to major hubs.
And the sources note something really smart here. Regional tourism boards can actually license or integrate these creator-led reusable digital assets into their own official destination management strategies. Oh, wow. So a local government can leverage the My3T infrastructure to actively draw foot traffic away from their congested zones and into their underserved neighborhoods.
Exactly. It aligns the financial incentives of the traveler, the creator, and the local business with the existential needs of the destination itself.
But having an elegant theoretical model is one thing. Executing it requires building a complex, highly secure technological infrastructure.
It does.
And what is most revealing in these sources is that My3P is not building this like a standard Silicon Valley consumer app. They are architecting a deep tech platform heavily optimized for European digital sovereignty.
Yes, let's go under the hood because the legal and technical strategy here is fascinating.
The very first structural decision they made was where to plant their flag. My3P is operated by 3POU, a private limited company established in Estonia via their e-residency framework.
And I have to play the skeptic for a moment here. Whenever I hear about a startup incorporating in a small European nation, my immediate thought is a regulatory loophole or a tax haven play. Is there a genuine operational reason for choosing Estonia?
The choice of Estonia is fundamentally about technological alignment, not tax evasion.
Okay.
Estonia is arguably the most advanced digital society in the world. Their e-residency program allows founders to establish, manage, and administer a fully functional EU company entirely online.
So you sign binding legal documents with state-backed cryptographic encryption.
You manage banking and taxes through a unified digital interface. It eliminates the crippling bureaucratic friction that typically bogs down early-stage companies and legacy European economies.
So it's the perfect launch pad for a company that explicitly states in its business plan that it operates as a remote-first, borderless entity.
It is. But more importantly, incorporating in Estonia anchors them definitively inside the legal jurisdiction of the European Union from day one.
Which leads directly to what is arguably their most significant competitive moat: European data sovereignty.
Yes. The sources outline a multi-cloud architecture utilizing AWS, Azure, and Ionos. But they specifically mandate that all core workloads and relational databases are hosted physically in European regions.
Places like Frankfurt or Stockholm.
Exactly. To understand why this matters, we have to look at the massive trust deficit currently plaguing global tech.
Right. For the dominant, predominantly US-based mega platforms, user data is the primary product.
It is relentlessly harvested, analyzed, monetized through targeted advertising, and frequently transferred across international borders with very little transparency.
Which brings us to Schrems 2. The business plan explicitly states they are designed to avoid Schrems 2 complications.
And for anyone who doesn't spend their days reading European Court of Justice rulings, let's unpack that.
Max Schrems is an Austrian privacy activist who essentially nuked the legal framework that allowed massive tech companies to freely ship European user data to servers in the United States.
Right. The court ruled that U.S. surveillance laws did not offer adequate protection for EU citizens' data.
It created a monumental compliance nightmare for any global platform operating in Europe.
It forced companies to rely on incredibly complex, legally fragile workarounds, and My3P is using that geopolitical nightmare as a core selling point.
They aren't treating the General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR) as a set of annoying rules to be managed by a compliance officer after the product is built.
No, they are employing privacy by design.
Meaning every line of code assumes privacy is the default state.
Exactly. All personal and transactional data remains physically and legally within the EU.
There are rigorous data processing agreements in place, and crucially, they guarantee no routine data transfers to third countries subject to extraterritorial surveillance.
Think about what that means for a potential partnership. If a publicly funded regional tourism board in Germany wants to pilot a digital initiative to manage visitor flows, their data residency requirements are draconian.
A standard US-based SaaS platform often cannot pass the security audit because they cannot definitively guarantee the data won't hit a server in California.
But My3P is built from the bedrock up to instantly pass that audit. It turns regulatory compliance from a cost center into a massive competitive advantage.
And that philosophy extends directly into how they are deploying artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's impossible to analyze a tech pitch deck today without encountering AI, but My3P's approach is highly specific.
They are aligning their development explicitly with the forthcoming EU AI Act, which is the world's first comprehensive, legally binding framework for artificial intelligence.
And the core tenet of the EU's approach is that AI must be human-centric.
But what does that actually mean in the context of an itinerary app? I mean, it sounds like great PR, but how does human-centric AI function on the back end?
It means the system architecture treats the AI as a subordinate tool to empower human agency, rather than an autonomous agent designed to manipulate human behavior or replace human labor.
The pitch deck clearly delineates that My3P will not deploy any systems classified as high risk under the AI Act.
Right. There is no biometric identification, no emotional recognition systems, and no automated risk profiling of users.
The analogy I found helpful while reading this is thinking of the AI as an incredibly competent, lightning-fast logistical intern.
I like that.
If a creator wants to build a 7-day guide to the Scottish Highlands, the AI intern can instantly pull up the opening hours of every distillery, calculate the driving times between them, and draft a baseline summary.
But the seasoned human expert, the creator, makes the final qualitative judgments, sets the tone, and retains absolute control over what is actually published.
Furthermore, the AI Act demands transparency. If the My3P marketplace uses an algorithm to recommend certain guides over others, the logic behind that ranking must be transparently documented and understandable to the user.
It cannot be a black box optimizing purely for corporate profit at the expense of the user's intent.
But the AI is only as smart as the information it's fed. And this is where we hit what I think is the most profound technical innovation in the entire deck: their reliance on structured data.
Yes. The sources draw a sharp contrast between how a traditional travel blog operates versus how a My3P itinerary is built.
If you read a beautifully written travel blog about a weekend in Tokyo, you are reading unstructured data. It is a wall of text.
A human can read it and understand it, but a machine cannot easily parse it into a functional, bookable calendar. The blog is static.
But when a creator inputs their Tokyo trip into the My3P Creator Studio, they aren't just typing paragraphs, they are inputting highly categorized structured data points.
Right. They're logging exact geolocation coordinates, timestamp sequences, specific cost brackets, and critical metadata like accessibility tags or dietary options.
They are effectively translating a narrative story into a dynamic database.
And that structured data layer is the holy grail for artificial intelligence. Because the data is structured, the My3P AI agents can instantly query, remix, and personalize those itineraries.
Let's play that out. Say I buy a structured itinerary for the Swiss Alps, and day 3 includes a grueling 4-hour hike. But I have a mobility issue, or perhaps there's a sudden severe rainstorm that morning.
Because it's structured data, the AI recognizes the outdoor strenuous tag, cross-references it with the weather API or your user preferences, and instantly suggests an alternative.
Perhaps an accessible indoor chocolate-making masterclass curated by that same creator.
Exactly. It seamlessly swaps the event and recalculates the entire day's logistics and budget in milliseconds.
That capability is just impossible with a static blog post.
Totally impossible. And strategically, by standardizing travel data in this way, My3P is laying the foundation to integrate seamlessly with the upcoming common European data spaces.
Because the EU is actively trying to build secure, federated data pools for sectors like tourism and cultural heritage.
And My3P is speaking the exact technical language required to become a foundational node in that future European infrastructure.
Okay, so the technological architecture is incredibly robust. The regulatory positioning is brilliant. But let's bring this back to reality.
The money?
The money. How does this system actually sustain itself financially? You could have the most ethical, sovereign platform in the world, but if the unit economics don't work, it's just an expensive academic exercise.
Right. We need to dissect the economic ripple effect because the revenue model they've designed is a masterclass in behavioral psychology.
The revenue model is engineered to minimize friction and harness the natural momentum of the creator economy. It operates on a marketplace commission structure.
Let's look at the exact numbers from the business plan. My3P charges a commission on transactions that flow through the platform.
So for a transaction between a creator and a traveler, like purchasing a digital guide, the platform takes roughly 15% to 25%.
And for business collaborations, it's between 10% and 20%. This means the creator retains a massive 80% of the revenue, or anywhere between 70% and 85%, depending on their specific tier.
Guaranteeing that 80% take-home for the creator is strategically vital.
It really is. It sends a clear market signal that My3P is not an extractive platform trying to squeeze its users. It is positioning itself as a genuine infrastructural partner to the creator's business.
But the true genius of the model lies in the distinction they make between organic sales and referral sales.
Yes, the 90-10 split.
I was practically taking notes on this section because it solves one of the hardest problems in startups. Customer acquisition. Let's break down how this works. If I am a traveler natively browsing the My3P app, searching for weekend in Barcelona, and I discover a creator's guide and buy it, that is an organic platform sale.
Right. My3P brought the customer to the creator.
In that scenario, My3P takes their standard commission, let's say 30%, and the creator keeps 70%.
That is the standard marketplace dynamic. But the
Right.
structure flips entirely if the creator drives their own audience to the platform.
Imagine a creator posts a reel on Instagram highlighting their Barcelona trip and tells their followers, you can buy my exact itinerary at the link in my bio.
When a follower clicks that link, enters the My3P platform, and makes a purchase, My3P drastically reduces its commission down to a mere 10%. The creator keeps 90% of the revenue.
I push back on traditional digital marketing strategies all the time because throwing money at Google or Meta ads is often a black hole for early-stage startups.
Oh, absolutely. The customer acquisition cost, or CAC, will bleed a company dry before they ever reach scale.
What My3P is doing here is essentially a Trojan horse strategy. They are completely outsourcing their marketing and customer acquisition to a highly motivated, decentralized army of creators.
They are turning their user base into their marketing department.
Instead of paying exorbitant fees to Silicon Valley ad networks to find travelers, they are heavily incentivizing creators to bring the travelers to them, compensating the creator by taking a negligible cut of the transaction.
It creates an unstoppable, self-reinforcing network effect. If I am a creator, I am going to aggressively funnel every single piece of traffic I generate across all my social channels directly into My3P because I know I keep 90% of the upside.
You have zero incentive to build your own website or patch together 5 different payment tools when My3P gives you the infrastructure and lets you keep the lion's share of the profit.
And to ignite that network effect, the documents detail a very specific founding creator program.
They're targeting an initial cohort of 20 to 30 top-tier, highly influential creators to seed the marketplace with high-quality inventory.
The incentive to join early is massive. 0% commission for the first 6 months, direct access to the engineering team to shape the product features, and essentially a co-founder status within the community ecosystem.
It's the classic platform seeding playbook executed perfectly. But what I find even more compelling than how the money is generated is where the money eventually settles.
Right, because this is where the alignment with the European Union's broader economic goals becomes tangible.
The objective here isn't just to make a handful of top-tier influencers rich. The core objective is the empowerment of European micro-entrepreneurs.
If we examine their specific key performance indicators, the KPIs outlined for the next few years, the ambition is clear. By year 3, My3P aims to successfully onboard 1,200 active European small entities.
We're talking about creators registering as self-employed professionals, independent micro-tourism providers, and small family-run hospitality businesses.
And there is one specific metric in the strategic alignment document that proves this isn't just talk.
What's that?
They are projecting that at least 70% of the gross merchandise value, the GMV, which is the total volume of money moving through the platform, will flow directly and exclusively to entities established within the EU, the EEA, or associated countries.
Wow. That 70% local retention rate represents a massive disruption to the status quo. Let's contrast that with how wealth moves right now.
Okay.
Currently, a traveler in New York uses a massive OTA headquartered in the U.S. to book a room in a multinational corporate hotel chain located in the center of Rome.
The transaction occurs, but the vast majority of that wealth is immediately extracted from the local Italian economy and funneled back to corporate headquarters and offshore data centers.
The local destination absorbs all the wear and tear of the tourist, but retains very little of the economic benefit.
My3P is engineering the exact opposite outcome. Under their model, a solo female creator living in a regional Spanish town designs a highly curated itinerary.
That itinerary features a local, family-run vineyard and a small, independently owned guest house.
The traveler gets a spectacular, uncrowded experience, and the capital from that transaction circulates directly within the regional European economy.
It empowers the exact demographics that legacy tech ignores. Women-led digital businesses and micro-operators outside the major metropolitan zones.
It takes the economic power away from the centralized algorithm and hands it back to the local community that actually maintains the cultural heritage. It is a beautiful mechanism.
But building a sovereign European data infrastructure, developing human-centric AI, and scaling a three-sided marketplace across a continent requires immense capital.
It really does.
And this brings us to what I consider the most radical part of their entire business plan: how they intend to fund the rocket ship.
Normally, when you analyze a tech startup with an AI integration and a marketplace dynamic, the capitalization strategy is entirely predictable.
The founders fly to Silicon Valley, pitch a major venture capital firm like Andreessen Horowitz, raise $10 or $20 million.
Burn through all of it immediately on aggressive customer acquisition and pray they achieve a monopoly before the money runs out.
It's the hypergrowth blitzscaling playbook.
Yeah.
But My3P is completely rejecting that model.
They're seeking a relatively modest pre-seed round of $200,000 to $300,000 from private investors purely to finance the validation of their minimum viable product.
But their primary long-term capitalization strategy relies on navigating the labyrinth of European public funding.
They are targeting massive instruments like Horizon Europe, the European Innovation Council, and EIT Digital.
To understand why a startup would subject itself to the intense scrutiny and bureaucracy of public funding, you have to understand how My3P is positioning itself.
They are not pitching themselves to the EU as a consumer travel app. They are pitching themselves as a critical piece of strategic infrastructure for the European digital ecosystem.
They are offering to solve public policy problems that the government is fundamentally incapable of solving on its own. Let's look at the specific EU mandates they are aligning with, because the synergy is striking.
The sources point to two major directives. The first is the transition pathway for tourism.
Right. The European Commission has issued a clear mandate demanding a more resilient, digital, and above all, sustainable tourism ecosystem. They are desperate for solutions that distribute tourism flows away from the breaking points.
Which, as we've discussed, My3P achieves natively through its creator-led dispersion model. The platform is a turnkey solution for that exact policy goal.
The second major mandate is the Digital Decade Program. The EU has set a hard target. By the year 2030, they want 90% of all European small and medium enterprises to have achieved a basic level of digital intensity.
And this is where My3P proves its systemic value. Think about a small, multi-generational guest house in rural Greece.
Right?
It is incredibly difficult, expensive, and intimidating for them to adopt cloud computing architectures, integrate predictive AI analytics, and manage structured digital marketing.
They simply do not have the IT personnel, the capital, or the time. They are focused on keeping the physical business running.
But by simply plugging into the My3P Business Hub, that micro-entrepreneur instantly gains access to an EU sovereign cloud infrastructure, AI-assisted global marketing, and advanced predictive data analytics without ever having to build, manage, or even fully understand the underlying code.
My3P acts as an accelerant. They're doing the heavy lifting to drag these disconnected micro-businesses into the digital economy.
They are presenting a compelling proposition to the European funding bodies. Provide us with the capital to scale our platform, and we will simultaneously digitize thousands of your hardest-to-reach rural SMEs, disperse the tourist flows threatening your heritage sites, and keep the generated wealth inside your borders.
It is an alignment of public policy and private innovation. But securing that public money requires proving that the technology is viable.
Yes, and the funding proposals rely heavily on the concept of technology readiness levels, or TRLs.
For someone outside the world of government grants, What exactly is a TRL, and where does My3P currently sit on that spectrum?
The TRL scale is a measurement system from 1 to 9 used by European institutions to assess the maturity of a technology. TRL 1 is essentially basic scientific research on a whiteboard.
And TRL9 is a fully proven system operating successfully in a live, competitive market. It helps grant agencies understand exactly how much risk they're taking on.
Currently, the documentation indicates My3P is positioned in the valley of death between TRL 4 and TRL 5.
The Valley of Death, meaning they have a functional internal prototype, the core AI data models are built, and they have validated the primary pain points with early beta testers, like solo female travelers. But the system is not yet deployed at scale in the real world.
Exactly. The entire purpose of securing this EU project funding is to aggressively push the technology from TRL 5 up to TRL 7, which signifies a system prototype successfully demonstrated in an operational environment.
To achieve this, they have outlined a highly aggressive 24-month operational roadmap. Let's track that roadmap. Month 6 is the critical minimum viable product, or MVP, launch.
They are targeting 50 active, high-quality creators on the platform.
Month 12 is the inflection point. That is when they target product market fit, defined in their metrics as achieving €10,000 in monthly gross merchandise value.
That is the moment they prove that consumers are actually willing to open their wallets and pay for this entirely new category of structured travel data.
And month 24 is the scale-up phase, with a massive leap targeting $1 million in annual GMV. But here is the critical operational question. How do they go from 50 creators and 10 grand a month to €1 million run rate without spending tens of millions on Silicon Valley-style marketing?
The strategy documents outline a city-based approach. This is a highly disciplined rollout strategy.
Instead of launching globally and spreading their limited resources across the entire continent, resulting in a thin, useless network, they are hyper-focusing their deployment.
They intend to launch sequentially in specific high-density cities that already possess robust populations of digital nomads, travel creators, and forward-thinking independent businesses.
The documents specifically target cities like Lisbon, Berlin, and Barcelona as the initial launch pads. That makes perfect strategic sense.
You establish a geofenced area, you recruit the top 10 creators in Lisbon, you onboard 50 of the coolest independent cafes and boutique hotels in Lisbon, you drive traveler traffic specifically to Lisbon.
You build a dense critical mass where the network effects actually function. Once the Lisbon ecosystem is humming and profitable, you package that operational playbook and copy-paste it to Berlin.
It manages risk, controls the cash burn rate, and allows them to refine the AI models in a controlled environment before expanding.
And as they execute this city-by-city expansion, the expert analysis within the business plan points toward a fascinating long-term monetization path that entirely transcends the standard marketplace commission model.
You were talking about the data intelligence strategy. This brings us full circle to why their structured data architecture is so profoundly valuable.
Because every itinerary built and every trip taken on My3P generates structured, highly accurate insights about travel patterns.
They are generating a real-time, macro-level view of how humans move through a destination. They know which neighborhoods are trending before they trend, they know the average duration of a stay down to the hour, and they understand the precise routes travelers are taking between specific points of interest.
But I want to be extremely clear here, because we spent a lot of time discussing their commitment to privacy and avoiding Schrems II. They are not selling John Doe's personal itinerary or tracking his individual phone.
Because the system is built on GDPR compliance and privacy by design, the data is entirely aggregated and anonymized.
Precisely. They are extracting the macro patterns, the heat maps of movement, without ever exposing the individual user's identity. And that aggregated intelligence is a literal goldmine for city planners, transit authorities, and regional tourism boards.
Imagine the utility of that data for a city manager in Florence or Barcelona. If the My3P data indicates a sudden, massive spike in creators routing travelers toward a specific, fragile historical site or a quiet residential neighborhood, the city authority can see that wave coming before it arrives.
They can proactively adjust public transit schedules, deploy resources, or implement flow control measures to manage the influx sustainably.
It provides governments with the predictive analytics required to actively manage and protect their cultural heritage, rather than just reacting to the damage after the tourists have left.
It represents an entirely alternative, highly lucrative B2B revenue stream for My3P that simultaneously serves the public good. It is the ultimate realization of their thesis that technology can protect rather than exploit a destination.
We have covered an immense amount of ground today, and the scale of what My3P is attempting is staggering.
We started by diagnosing a deeply broken system, a system that forces travelers into a 16-hour, 20-tab ordeal of logistical anxiety. We looked at the macroeconomic pressures of the cost of living crisis and the existential threat of algorithmic OTAs funneling mass tourism until it crushes the very cultural heritage Europe is trying to preserve.
And we explored how My3P addresses these compounding crises not by launching another derivative booking app, but by architecting a completely new operating system for the creator economy.
They bridge the gap between inspiration and transaction through a three-sided marketplace, utilizing human-centric AI to simultaneously empower the traveler, compensate the creator, and rescue the local European SME from digital obscurity.
We looked under the hood at an elegant, deeply defensive technological posture. An Estonian-based, EU-sovereign, GDPR-compliant architecture built entirely on structured data.
And we mapped out an economic engine designed to distribute wealth locally, leveraging a brilliant zero-CAC referral strategy that aligns perfectly with the European Union's massive funding mandates for the digital decade and sustainable cultural tourism.
It is a comprehensive blueprint for democratizing travel expertise, asserting European digital independence, and proving that the modern digital economy does not have to be inherently extractive.
It is a bold vision, and whether they can successfully navigate the valley of death to execute it remains to be seen. But the ambition alone forces us to look at our own habits. I want to address you directly as we wrap up today's deep dive. I want you to think about your own digital footprint the next time you travel. Think about every photo you upload, every cafe you review on a major platform, every location you pin on a digital map.
You are constantly generating highly valuable data. Right now, that data is almost certainly being harvested to enrich a massive, distant corporation that has no stake in the community you are visiting.
But what if that ecosystem flipped? What if your transaction directly empowered the local cafe owner? What if it fairly compensated the creator whose artistic vision inspired you to board the plane in the first place?
It's a huge paradigm shift.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. If My3P succeeds, and the future of travel shifts entirely toward these creator-led, hyperlocal marketplaces where lived human experience is instantly transformed into bookable, structured data. Wait, let me rephrase. Transformed into structured data, what happens to the traditional authorities of travel? Is the era of the printed travel guidebook officially over? And perhaps more provocatively, in a future where every single hidden gem can be perfectly structured, packaged, optimized, and sold by an AI-assisted creator algorithm? Will the ultimate unattainable luxury in travel become finding an itinerary that absolutely no one has ever posted online? Thank you for joining this deep dive into the source material. We hope this conversation encourages you to rethink not just the mechanics of how you plan your next trip, but the profound economic and cultural impact you leave behind when you finally step off that plane.